concise history of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, chapter 7.1, important events before the Battle of Badr. Idolaters of Mecca were very upset since the Muslims had escaped from their clench and they had settled in a peaceful city of Medina. They were also constantly worried about the attack by the Muslims with the help of warriors of Aus and Khazraj tribes. Abdullah bin Ubay had enmity with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as explained earlier. Hence, the idolaters of Makkah wrote a letter to Abdullah bin Ubay and his followers too. The letter said, "You have given refuge to our person," that means Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. "You should fight with him or expel him, otherwise we will attack you and we will kill your men and disgrace your women." This is in Abu Dawood. Abdullah bin Ubay and his followers assembled to fight with the Prophet ﷺ after they received this letter. The Prophet ﷺ explained them, "In fact, you will be fighting with your own brothers and sons." The people dispersed after the advice of the Prophet ﷺ. This is in Abu Dawood. Abdullah bin Ubay tried to create mischief again and again and also did several conspiracies with the Jews. The Prophet ﷺ put off the fire every time he lit the fire. This is in Bukhari. This is also in Bukhari that Sa'ad bin Mu'az radhiyallahu anhu went to Mecca for Umrah. Abu Jahl saw him and said to him, "If you were not the guest of Umayyah bin Khalf, you would not return home unharmed." Sa'ad bin Mu'az replied, "If you stop me from Umrah, I shall stop you from something which will be more painful for you. That is the route of your trade caravan near Medina." It is also mentioned in Bukhari, Muslims were receiving frequent threats from the Quraysh stating, "We will attack Medina and finish you for good." The Prophet ﷺ felt this danger and could not sleep at night with this worry. Ashar Dilana narrates, after arrival in Medina, the Prophet ﷺ was awoke one night and he said, I wish there was a companion to serve as a guard for me." After a short while, we heard some sound of arms. The Prophet ﷺ asked who he was. He replied, "I am Sa'd bin Abi Waqas." He said, "I felt some danger for you and I have come to guard you." The Prophet ﷺ made dua for him and then he went to sleep. There was always a guard for the Prophet ﷺ in Masjid Nabawi. He was stationed at the guard column in this masjid. Most of the time the guard was Ali radhiyallahu anhu. That's why guard column is also called Ali column. However, when the following verse came, Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 67, "Wallahu yasimuka minan nas." Don't be afraid of disbelievers. Allah will protect you from mankind. The Prophet ﷺ removed his guard permanently, stating, "O people, go home. Allah has provided me the protection." This is in Tirmidhi. In the meanwhile, Allah sent down the permission for the defensive war. Surah Al-Hajj, verse 39. الذين أذن للذين يقاتلون بأنهم ظلموا وإن الله على نصرهم لقدير. أذن للذين يقاتلون بأنهم ظلموا وإن الله على نصرهم لقدير. From now on, those believers who are allowed to fight back the disbelievers, who fight with them since they, the believers, have been wronged. And indeed, Allah is able to grant victory to the believers. According to many scholars, this was the first command of Allah to permit believers to fight physically against disbelievers. After this permission, the Prophet ﷺ took two important steps. Number one, he made friendship treaties with the tribes around Medina. Number two, he sent troops to safeguard the major routes around Medina. This opened door for the battles, and it resulted in several battles before the Battle of Badr. Note that the battle in which the Prophet ﷺ participated, even though actual battle did not take place, it is called Ghazwa, and other battles are called Siraya or expedition. The purpose of these battles was to cause economic blockade for the idolaters of Makkah and to make them recognize the new Muslim power and to intimidate them with Islamic spirit and zeal and enthusiasm. I will describe only one or two of these Ghazwa or Siraya. Rest of them can be seen in my book. Ghazwa Abwa. This was the first military expedition in which the Prophet ﷺ took part. The Prophet ﷺ went with 70 immigrants to intercept a camel caravan of Quraysh. When he reached Abwa, he found none, since they have already left that spot. Saad bin Ubadah radhiyallahu anhu was made in charge of Medina in his absence. During this campaign, a non-aggressive pact was made with Banu Damra as follows. This is a written document from Muhammad ﷺ, the Messenger of Allah, for Banu Damra, in which he grants them safety and security in their wealth and lives. Muslims will help them if someone attacks them, as long as they do not oppose the religion of Allah. They are expected to respond positively in case the Prophet sought their help. This pact is for good. So such similar other Ghazwat and Siraya took place time to time. In Shaban 2 Hijri, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala made fighting fard, obligatory for the Muslims, as mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 190. And fight in the path of Allah against those who fight against you, but don't transgress the limits. Indeed, Allah does not like the transgressors. More verses came down to motivate for fighting and to teach etiquettes of fighting. Surah Muhammad verses 4 to 7. In order to counteract the evil activities of the disbelievers, so when you meet the disbelievers in jihad, hit hard on their necks till you thoroughly subdue them to hold them captive firmly. Then you have two options. Either free them without penalty out of generosity, or free them with penalty, whatever is best for Islam, until the war activities cease. That is the command of Allah. And if Allah willed, He Himself would have taken revenge from them by His torment. But jihad is prescribed. The reason for prescribing jihad in these verses, so that Allah may test some of you with others. And those who are killed in the path of Allah, He will never let their days be lost. Allah will guide them to their destinations and will improve their condition in the grave and in all stages of hereafter, and admit them to paradise which He has made known to them. I.e., as mentioned in Bukhari, they will know their places in paradise better than they used to know their homes in the world. And then that verse continues, O you who believe, if you help in the cause of Allah, He will help you and make your foothold firm in the battlefield and are on the slippery bridge. Note that in Shaban 2 Hijrah, Qibla was changed from Masjid Aqsa to Baytullah in Makkah. By this test of Allah, the Muslims got rid of many hypocrites and it made them stronger internally. This change of Qibla was also an important indicator that a change, that a new era has started. This change of Qibla was also an important indicator that a new era has started. This new change will not stop till Muslims take control of their Qibla, since how can a nation have its Qibla controlled by its enemies? Hence, the conquest of Makkah had to take place sooner or later. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم